Remember, Mr. Whitebread was actually a protege of Mr. Pell's and has risen to the highest level of politics in this country, espousing nothing, believing in nothing other than himself. He is perhaps the best example of shameless self-promotion that we have here in Rhode Island, and that's saying something.
Well, to his credit, he did give away a lot of free pasta dinners. I would always get the robocall of the White House campaign invites you to a free pasta dinner at St. Joe's Elderly Complex.
I think we need to do a live remote from one of those.
Oh, I would love to do live remotes. We need to get out there.
Absolutely.
It's whoever gives out the best pasta or the best ice cream.
Well, that can be our review.
Free ice cream?
No, a review of the meet and greets, grip and grins.
This didn't give me heartburn.
That's right. The pasta was al dente, surprisingly, for an event of this nature.
Hey, we're halfway through the program, which means we're going to take a quick break. Don't forget to check out coalitionradio.us. If you're on good old Facebook, don't forget to check out facebook.com/The Coalition Radio. And of course, if you tweet Coalition_radio, we are all over the social networking media sites as well. We should be. We're going to take a quick break. We'll come back. You'll hear more of The Coalition.
13 Folds is your definitive source for cannabis culture, with a print magazine, radio show, live events, and so much more. Check them out online at 13folds.com. That's the number 13, FOLDS.com.
My name is Angel Rach. I'm a mother of 2 teenage children, and I fought all the way to the Supreme Court for the right to use the medicine that saved my life. I've been permanently disabled for 10 years, with an inoperable brain tumor, wasting syndrome, and several other serious conditions. For 4 years, I was in a wheelchair, in so much pain, I couldn't even hug my kids. The hardest part was looking in their eyes and seeing how much they were suffering because of my medical condition. The medicine that gave me my life back and gave my kids their mom back was cannabis, also known as medical marijuana. With medical marijuana, I can walk, maintain my weight, and I can be a mom. Without it, my doctors believe that I would die. To learn more about medical marijuana, contact Marijuana Policy Project at 1-877-JOIN-MPP or on the web at mpp.org.
Hey everybody, it's Tony Jones. You know, when I'm not here yakking about politics, I spin records. That's right, if you like good old-fashioned rock and roll radio the way God intended it to be, then tune in to The Tony Jones Show. The information's online at tonyjones.org. That's tonyjones.org.
I found a picture of you.
Heading out on the town tonight? Be sure to log on to providencenightout.com and don't forget to check their cell phone app. That's providencenightout.com.
Tuned in to the Coalition, coalitionradio.us, facebook.com/the Coalition Radio, on Twitter at coalition_radio. My name is Tony Jones. P.O. Taxpayer is here.
Hello.
Chris is here.
Hello.
From Syria, I want to briefly, well, there's a few things I want to talk about, and I want to talk about them all briefly. So, first of all, this headline in the Providence Journal, which you can find on our Facebook page, prominently displayed on our Facebook page at facebook.com/the Coalition Radio. Facials for the mayors. I mean, was the new guy working the weekend?
Or the funny guy.
What went down? And, you know, to the credit, now, I very rarely, partake in any traditional media, except for maybe some like AM radio, NPR, things of that nature. So I will read the Providence Journal, and this is gross, but we talked about it before. I will read the Providence Journal, like if someone leaves it in the bathroom at work, or if it's, laying around here at the station. So that's when I will pick up, a traditional paper and read it. I did buy this paper specifically because, I just had to have it.
Well, maybe that was their purpose.
It worked.
It's the new New York Post strategy.
Yeah.
Double entendres. I still have, I think one of my favorite ones of all time from the New York Post was the Obama beats Wiener headline. I just want you to know that we are inquiring minds here. The coalition did place a formal call to the Providence Journal. Other than a gasp, a choking sound, and a gurgle, little comment was elicited from the, as our friend Rudy Cheeks would call it, the urinal.
For those of you at home who did not see this article, basically it's about cleaning and touching up the painted portraits of former mayors of Providence. It does not involve a spa day, nor does it involve an unusual spa day.
But there was a happy ending.
Yes.
It is a feel-good story.
And there's no truth to the rumor that they transported the paintings in a Hummer.
Or that it's congressionally funded by the congressman from the 1st District.
It was a $2 million project.
But can you imagine, on a semi-serious note, because you can't be serious about this, but can you imagine the Journal 20 years ago coming out with something like this?
Oh, yeah, I know. It had to be.
It's what a fall from grace the Providence Journal has taken. And I know people who work there, and they work hard, but 15, 20 years ago, we had one of the best papers in America. It was considered kind of and I say this with respect, it was sort of the AAA newspaper for the big time. We had people routinely going to the New York Times.
Oh, that's true, yeah.
People winning Pulitzers,
paper.
Later on down in their career. It was truly one of America's best regional newspapers. I remember the Sunday Magazine. Was just I'm a newspaper guy, and I'll actually expend money for some newspapers. Right now, I periodically run up against my 15 download limit from the Journal, and that's about when I stop now. But
I stopped reading it when Kathy wasn't in the funnies anymore.
But it's just we need a newspaper like that. And
yeah, it's I've been calling it the incredible shrinking paper. It was bought by the Below Company, or Bilo, or however they pronounce their name.
Blojo.
Yeah, it's now the Blojo, and it just gets smaller and smaller. They lose some of their reporters through natural attrition, and they don't replace them. Their art section gets smaller and smaller. All of their national news for years now has been covered by. They're buying AP stories,
right,
or New York Times stories, and it's not that there's anything wrong with AP stories or New York Times stories. But I could read the AP Newswire or the New York Times. And
the problem is, and I've been there personally, is that with an AP story, this happened to me. The AP was camping out at my place, and there's no fact checking. There's no checks and balances. So if you're misquoted or you screw up in this one story, then you have screwed up in hundreds and thousands of stories.
Right.
Well, and the arrogance that somehow we're going to perceive this as original reporting at the hands of the Journal is astonishing. I very often I'm reading stories in the Journal that I've read in the New York Times 2 or 3 days ago.
Yeah. So there's the time delay, which is annoying, and there's also if we used to have talented reporters in Washington who would correspond,
right?
And we'd hear an interesting point of view, and now we're not getting that.
And it doesn't have to be like that. And I'll point out, trying to be positive for once. I live up in Northern Rhode Island, and the Valley Breeze has become I'll call it a small media empire. I believe they have 4 editions now, which started out as, I think the mission statement jokingly was referred to as, get every child in a certain town in the newspaper once a year, and people will buy it. But it was genius because now, I will tell you, in the Woonsocket situation, where you've got Woonsocket, believe it or not, I know the rest of the state kind of ignores Woonsocket, teetering on the edge of bankruptcy. The best reporting being done about that is by the Valley Breeze, who is hiring reporters. Why? Because they have a strong ad base. Why? Because it's a well-written newspaper. And what happens then? People will, in this case, it's free, but people will read it and frequent. This is kind of a shock. The people who advertise there. It's packed with advertising, and as a result, it's packed with good reporting, a lot of feel-good stories, but it's just a well-written paper.
And actually, the Providence Phoenix, oddly enough, is similar.
Yeah,
it's full of ads because it's got great reporters and people read it.
Right. So if I think we all know that the paradigm has shifted, that we don't need the Providence Journal to give us national reporting anymore. We don't. But we're starved in a state like this for high-quality local reporting.
Right.
We're starved for local coverage of the arts.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the arts section has been shrinking and shrinking, and the arts that they do cover, they'll have 3 different stories about the touring production of Phantom of the Opera.
Yeah, it's completely dumbed down.
They'll have articles about TV programs. I don't need to read about the TV, what's on TV in the newspaper. If I can see it on TV, I can surf the net if I want to find out what's going on in new programming. I don't need a dedicated Rhode Island-based person to write about the television.
If I want to read puff pieces about the latest episode of The New Girl, I've got everything from Entertainment Tonight on up to read that.
Yeah, and they'll claim that they include that stuff because that's what, quote, people want to read.
If
crappy people.
Yeah, if you're going to dumb things down to the people's lowest expectations.
Yeah. I mean, do people genuinely buy newspapers because they want to know what local TV critic thinks about the same TV show that everyone else across the United States is already writing about at a much higher level? My feeling is no.
And yet at the same time, when it comes to local scandal, they're the masters of the after-the-fact reporting. Mm-hmm. They're all over it once someone's broken it. Mm-hmm. Or something comes to light.
Once they can't ignore it anymore and they have to say something.
Right.
Although I got to say, if I could get the food critic's job, I mean, that just has to be a sweet gig. Go around and get drunk and eat all the time. You could be lieutenant governor and be a food critic, right? Because you have nothing else to do. Just hang
Actually,
around.
that would be a good thing for the lieutenant governor to do.
Lieutenant food critic.
It'd be the first useful thing she'd ever done. But it's sad. It's just sad to see something fall so far in our lifetimes. And the fall has been steep. It's been quick. It's been precipitous. And it's not coming back. I give the Urinal in its current format a year or 2 max.
The papers in my neck of the woods do a pretty good job, I will have to say. And the ad base of people who want to go out and have a spaghetti dinner, they do well, but they rely heavily, and it kind of talks to what we were talking about earlier, is that they're heavily relying on freelance reporters now because they can't afford, or they claim they can't afford to have people on the payroll. And again, the freelance reporter seems to care, quote-unquote, care a lot more than the rank-and-file, hourly paid reporter reporting on a beat. Have you noticed that?
Absolutely. You've got this new business model, which I guess has had some ups and downs lately, the patch. I will tell you that the Coventry patch, and I live in Northern Rhode Island, so why would I be interested in that? Well, I mean, Coventry is its own little version of Carol Burnett as the stomach turns. And so you've got but you've got great local reporting happening online at the Coventry patch. So, so if other groups with not nearly the level of funding or the heritage or the sophistication are able to come in and create a demand for a product that no one knew they needed, all right, if they're able to do that, how come the Journal can't? Is it the remote ownership? Is it just it's a cash cow? I mean, if anyone's tried to advertise in the Journal, they'll know that their rates are staggering, particularly based on what they return. Is it just a cash cow for the Blojo people in Dallas? And at this point, they don't feel like they have to invest.
I'm a patch guy, too. I blog in the patch, and the interaction is really good. And it's always, where I am, I'm always thinking if I put out a piece that's pro-hemp or I put out a piece that's pro-marijuana or whatever it may be, I'm thinking all the Buffys and Jodies and the George and Mildreds are going to just tear me apart. All the powdery wig types are just going to tear me apart. And they love it. And they get on, they get on there with the, people you would never expect with the, right on, thumbs up. And it's just so bizarre to me.
Well, do you think the Journal can continue to keep its paywall?
If they, and it happened a few years ago, a little bit with the Phoenix. I bought some advertising with them. We've done some stuff here with them. They kind of got to the point where they were starting to price people out. And I think that the Projo could be in the same situation. If you're a small independent bookstore or record store, I mean, those prices are not going to return those amount of customers. It's just not possible.
Well, I think at that point, every business needs to look very hard at the demographics of who is and isn't reading the paper, and think, very hard, are my people still reading the paper? Is there any point in me doing this?
And especially when you can take Google AdWords, you can take something like Facebook and actually dial that down to, so say I want to sell a record, I can dial that down to people who live in Rhode Island who are between 18 and 35